Welcome back. In this next dark story, we will be talking about Gettysburg National Battlefield in Pennsylvania. The Devil's Den. We will be exploring the dark history and chilling mysteries of the Gettysburg National Battlefield. Close your eyes, relax and listen. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Gettysburg National Battlefield does not need a monster invented for it. The ground itself is already cursed by history. At Devil's Den, below Little Round Top, the rocks sit like broken teeth in the Pennsylvania earth, a maze of boulders where soldiers fought on July 2, 1863, using stone, smoke, and blood as cover. The National Park Service identifies Devil's Den as the scene of heavy fighting, where the landscape itself shaped the battle. Boulders became shields, ridges became killing positions, and the shallow, rocky soil made it nearly impossible for soldiers to dig in and hide from death. By the time Gettysburg ended, more than 51,000 men were dead, wounded, or missing, and the town was left so ruined that buildings became hospitals, gardens became graves, and some bodies were barely buried at all. That is the real darkness under Devil's Den, not a storybook curse, but a place where the earth was forced to swallow screams faster than it could swallow bodies. The horror people report there feels different, because Devil's Den was already feared before the war. Local lore says the place was once called the Big Rocks, but stories grew around snakes, spirits, strange sounds, and a creature locals supposedly called the Devil, giving the stones a name that sounded less like geography and more like a warning. Then the war came, and the name became almost too perfect. Confederate troops captured the rocks during savage fighting. Sharpshooters used the boulders to fire toward Little Round Top. And witnesses later remembered the area as one of the battlefield's most vicious and unnatural places. Imagine twilight settling over those stones after the shooting stopped. The smoke thinning, the flies rising, wounded men calling for mothers who would never hear them. And the rocks still warm from cannon fire. That is where the haunting begins. Not with a ghost jumping from the dark, but with the terrible idea that some deaths were so violent, they never finished happening. Visitors and paranormal writers have long described Devil's Den as one of Gettysburg's most active supernatural zones. Reported experiences include camera failures, shadowy forms appearing in photographs, phantom gunfire, screams carried across the rocks, and figures that vanish before the mind can accept what it saw. The most famous apparition is the barefoot man in ragged clothing and a floppy hat, a strange, disheveled figure said to approach lost visitors, point into the distance, and tell them what you're looking for is over there, before disappearing. Some call him a helpful ghost, but in a horror documentary, he becomes something worse. A guide that appears only when the living are confused, a thing wearing a soldier's shape, pointing people deeper into a battlefield where the air turns cold, and the stones seem to remember every man who crawled between them to die. The missing person. Mystery at Gettysburg is not just a modern campfire idea. It is written into the battle itself. thousands were listed among the dead, wounded, captured, or missing. And the National Park Service describes a town overwhelmed by bodies, hospitals, shallow graves, and fields turned into burial grounds. Around Devil's Den, that idea becomes nightmarish. Men disappeared into smoke, into rock gaps, into retreat, into graves marked wrong or not marked at all. The battlefield's famous sharpshooter imagery adds another layer of unease, because later analysis and local history discussions note that photographers staged or moved at least one Confederate corpse to create a more dramatic war image, turning Devil's Den into a place where even the dead were not allowed to rest naturally. That is the real mystery. Not one single vanished tourist, but an entire landscape filled with names, bodies, and final moments that history could not fully recover. So when people talk about demonic energy at Devil's Den, the strongest way to tell it is this. Maybe the evil there is not a horned creature hiding behind the rocks. Maybe it is the battlefield itself, still feeding on fear, grief, confusion, and memory. The boulders sit in silence by day, but the reports make the place feel alive at night. Camera batteries dying, footsteps where no one walks, screams with no mouths, and the barefoot man pointing towards something no visitor should follow. Devil's Den does not feel haunted because it looks scary. It feels haunted because the land was broken open by violence, filled with the dying, photographed with the dead, and renamed by generations of people who sense something wrong in the rocks. And if you stand there when the light fades, when Little Round Top goes black above you, and the wind slips between the stones like a breath through clenched teeth, you may understand the oldest warning of Gettysburg. Some battlefields do not remember the dead. They keep them. Thank you for your support. And thank you for tuning into the darkest horror stories of your life. Some of the stories are based on true events or experiences. Please do us a favor. If you could hit like, share this video, and subscribe to our channel. Never listen alone, and stay tuned for a new horrors and stories.